All right. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off here. Welcome, everybody. My name is Ben Kress. Many of you already know me. I'm the Customer Success Manager here at PC Bennett. For those of you who don't know me, it's nice to see everyone here attending our webinar today. On behalf of PC Bennett, we want to thank everybody for making some time to join us today for our open forum webinar, Making Your Online Storefront Come to Life. In today's webinar, we're going to be answering all of your questions about e-commerce, whether it's setting up an entirely new solution that ties into Acumatica or finding new efficiencies between your existing online storefront and ERP solution. We truly would like to make the content in today's call as tailored to you guys as possible. So please make sure that you're asking any questions you have in the chat, and we will make sure that we get to them during our hour-long call today. Today's webinar features two guests from PC Bennett that you may or may not already know. Yuri Karpenko is our Director of E-commerce Solutions and is our in-house e-commerce expert. He's got years of both ERP and e-commerce implementation experience and has been one of the driving leaders in PC Bennett, creating a digital agency that helps our clients set up online storefronts and maximizes their offerings to ensure users have a streamlined and fluid experience when purchasing products from you. Strati Moustakis is a newer member of PC Bennett and is our content marketing expert. He creates both customer and prospect-facing marketing materials, curates content for these webinars, and ensures that messaging is consistent across our brand. He will be leading the discussion with Yuri and sorting through the best questions to address on that call. With that, I will pass it over to the gentleman on the call.
This conversation is more so about questions that the audience sends in. So again, I'll just reiterate, if you have any, please send them into the chat feature and we'll be sure to address them. But to start, we do have a couple pre-loaded questions that were sent ahead of time. So we appreciate that. And I am just pulling up the first question. So at PC Bennett, Yuri, we have established an internal digital agency that's solely focused on building and integrating e-commerce solutions into Acumatica. Can you explain the why behind us doing this and the benefit our clients will experience from this transition in our business?
Yeah, absolutely. But first of all, hi, everyone. I looked at the list. I know a lot of names, so nice to see you here on the webinar. This is my first one, so if I'm confused at times, I apologize in advance. That's not the thing I do every day. But I feel comfortable because I know most of you on this webinar, and I'm happy to spend this time with you and talk about e-commerce. A very good question, Strati. And a lot of you have heard this story, why we have started this line of business digital agency within PC Bennett. We're very proud to do that because we have looked at the needs of our clients, of our existing customers, and we see that creating such a line of business will yield strong results and returns for our clients. That's the main reason we did that. You see, traditional brand agnostic digital agencies, they are really good at building e-commerce sites, and their shtick for the most part is marketing. They know how to make a sleek looking website, how to make it sell your products. But what we have found out is that rarely they have any expertise in ERP systems. They don't understand the back end. And they can definitely create your website, your storefront, but then when the time comes to connect that to an ERP system, your backend system, there are a lot of inconsistencies, even in the way the front end is built versus ERP data is structured. This causes some serious issues down the road, and our intention in building this business or digital agency within PC Bennett is that we're approaching the project from the holistic perspective. We're looking at it from beginning to end. We are thinking about your e-commerce with ERP in mind, and we're thinking about your ERP implementation with e-commerce in mind. So that overall idea that you don't want to have disparate systems doing different things and then trying to connect them together. No, from the very beginning, we want to start thinking about this whole software package that you are getting. we looked, as I said, we looked at the ecosystem that we currently have on the market, and there is very small amount of companies who can cover all of that, and the digital agencies we worked with didn't know ERP, so we had a choice: either educate them or do e-commerce internally, and that's the route that we chose. You see, if you I'll just touch on some issues that may arise. So if you, let's say, develop your e-commerce system and not thinking about ERP, what you end up having is your product structure, your payment gateways, your inventory levels can be absolutely unattached from Acumatica or any other ERP. And that's a problem, because if you are having an ERP, a backend system, you want that data to be feeding into e-commerce. So our approach is we try to think about this systems and the data flows from the very beginning. And at the end of the day, you have employees, you have people on your payroll who are running who are using your ERP, who are using your e-commerce system, and you want them to spend time on developing your business, bringing something new, revolutionizing your business, not just spending time entering data from 8 to 5, you know? So that's our intention. We're trying to provide you with a solution that covers you from A to Z, e-commerce included. Does this make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you going into such great detail there. So the second question we have is, we recently had a customer switch their e-commerce solution from Magento to BigCommerce, and they had existing Acumatica customizations built into Magento, and they were worried that those customizations weren't going to transfer over in a really clean way to the new provider in BigCommerce. So Yuri, how would you best support a customer who is making a transfer like this and keeping those customizations as consistent as possible through that transition?
Yeah, that's a great question. Another one that often comes up, especially when you're transferring from an existing solution that didn't have a connector to Acumatica or other ERP system. What you're having is, if you wanted that e-commerce system to be integrated with Acumatica, you had to build a lot of customizations. Some of those could be truly necessary because of the limitations of Acumatica, but most of them, or some of them at least, will be necessary because of how that e-commerce system is built, and due to the fact that you don't have a connector for that system. So you mentioned Magento. There are some customizations that our customers created for Magento only because Magento doesn't do things the way Acumatica does them. So, and if we're talking about the transfer from Magento to BigCommerce, BigCommerce has a big advantage. Specifically, BigCommerce has a big advantage over Magento because Acumatica has a connector that connects Acumatica to BigCommerce, and a lot of the flows are already developed. They are there in the system. They are supported by the provider of the solution, which is Acumatica. Another thing is, as I said, there will be some customizations that will need to be transferred over from your Magento side or Volusion or whatever you have, 3D card. And in those cases, the key to success is understanding the business purposes for those customizations and then mapping them out to BigCommerce. My approach and my team's approach is always, let's look at what you do currently. Why do you need those customizations? Is there a way we can limit or trim down the number of customizations you have? Maybe you can review your business processes and not create those customizations. Now, some customizations will still be required. And in those cases, we just need to understand the functional business requirements. And if we do, then we go into a great detail understanding of all of this flows of data. How are we generating the data in BigCommerce or Shopify? And how do we want to present that in Acumatica? So if we do the groundwork properly at the beginning, I don't see a problem of moving from whatever you currently have, even if it's completely custom website, it's not even built on an existing e-commerce solution. I don't see a problem there.
Thank you for that. And so I think we'll transition into a couple more questions that we had sent in previously, but Jackie, just wanted to say thank you for using the Q&A feature. We will definitely get to that once we finish with these preloaded questions. So anyone else who's in the audience, please feel free to use either the Q&A feature or the chat feature, and we'll be sure to address those questions once we're done with this beginning section. So again, just really appreciate that. So Yuri, what do clients do if they want to integrate an existing site through something like a Shopify or a BigCommerce?
Okay, I guess the question here is the emphasis is on the existing, because there are two types of projects we have. One is the client comes in and they want both Acumatica ERP and they want e-commerce implemented at the same time. In other cases, we have a new customer who already has an existing website. Let's say it's BigCommerce or Shopify. So what do we do, or do we have any issues integrating that into Acumatica? My answer to that is, again, because we have Acumatica provided connectors, we have a lot of the flows covered from the get-go. So I don't see an issue with that approach or with that setup. The only thing is we have to make sure that we map the data correctly between two systems. That's the key. And again, if you have an existing website, we will probably need to change something either on the website or on Acumatica, because if it was developed without ERP in mind, there is a good chance that something has been missed. The biggest one of them, and I know people on the call that you have worked with me on this, is template items or matrix items, or as we call them in e-commerce sphere, products with variants. So that thing is in itself can be a project, and actually I've done some of them already, and we're working on more. When we want to integrate Acumatica to an existing e-commerce solution and you have product with variants, you have to be very specific and meticulous in how you build those products out in Acumatica. They can't be just simple products, simple SKUs, not attached to a template item. So we need to map out the data very, very precisely. We need to create the option set, the option values, and all of that stuff. So, but with the right planning and with some tools that we use, it's not a problem. And that's why I mentioned in the beginning, that's the whole idea why we started this agency, is because we want to start with the right mindset. If we have an option to create your e-commerce from the ground up, then we will be thinking about this stuff from the beginning. We will not let it slide and let you create all of your products in Shopify or BigCommerce and then try to figure out how do we replicate that in Acumatica, because that could be a sizable project. That could be very similar in size project that the e-commerce implementation itself.
Yeah, and so I think this next question kind of flows pretty well into what you just said. So if someone is coming from let's say a different accounting solution or a different ERP from Acumatica, and they also want to change their e-commerce solution, do you suggest doing one before the other, or kind of what would be your ideal process in terms of how to go about this type of implementation?
Yeah, it's a good one. I would say if you have resources, and by that I mean if you have budget and if you have people, you have time available, it's best to do the two together. Because again, we can plan out everything better if we do it together. And we have done projects like that, and we have went live with Acumatica and BigCommerce on the same day. And that was great. Obviously, we had a lot of testing done beforehand, but doing that is really beneficial from the planning and project management perspective. because if you do an e-commerce solution first, let's say you don't have budget, so you don't have people, and you say, I will do an e-commerce solution, and then we'll come back to Acumatica, then there is a chance that you can miss something with your e-commerce solution. However, I should add that if you go with us for the e-commerce, we will definitely include in our thinking process what ERP reservations we should make with your e-commerce solution. So that's the benefit of working with a partner like PC Bennett, who knows both sides of the project. But if you go with your digital agency and they create your website, there is a chance that when you come back to us and implement Acumatica and implement the connector for Acumatica, there's a good chance that there will some rework be needed, and we want to avoid that. I always say that if you want to go that route, include your digital agency in conversations with us. Let them talk to us a lot to understand what we have in the connector, what we have in Acumatica, how they should do their part of the project. Or you can go with Acumatica first. I mean, between the two, I would say this is better, because you can implement Acumatica, and that's your backend. That's your foundation, so to speak. So you want to build foundation before you raise up the walls. So build your Acumatica first, have everything set up there, and then come back with e-commerce. We can do that as the next step.
So this is actually just something that's top of mind for me more than anything else. So you mentioned that we, as PC Bennett, would still work with a digital agency that a client has, even if they're not choosing to leverage PC Bennett's digital agency. So with PC Bennett now having its own in-house digital agency, that doesn't mean we're going to stop working with additional digital agencies, right? We'll still support our customers as they're trying to build out their e-commerce solutions, regardless of who they go with in terms of building the site itself.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, client is the king. They decide who they work and with and what they do. We just want to support you in that process. We have found out, as I said, that it's vital to have a partner that understands ERP, and I mean, when I say understands, it's not just that they did a website that somebody else integrated with ERP in the past. I've seen the instances where a digital agency would say, oh yeah, we've done this and this many websites, and they are integrated with ERP. But when I talk to the client, to the owner of that website now, they say, yeah, but we had to redo a bunch of work when we tried to integrate it with ERP. So I just want you to avoid that at all costs, because the cost could be very high.
Yeah, I just really wanted to make sure that our clients on the call knew that we would still be interacting with other digital agencies and ensure that their ERP is operating to the best of its abilities, although we will have our own in-house digital agency going forward. So just creating that clarity. So I appreciate you answering that. So if a client has an e-commerce solution that's working fine, and they don't see a need to, like, they may not see a need to update it because it's supporting their business, it has been for years, and they really haven't had to do too many major updates, what would be your main reason to encourage them to switch to something that's more modern and that's like truly worth the cost as opposed to an outdated solution?
Yeah, that's a good question. You people who are in e-commerce business, or at least use e-commerce for your business as a sales channel, you know better than most of the people on the earth that area is developing at the light speed. I mean, the changes has been introduced every month. Even from the Acumatica ERP perspective, the connectors that we have for Shopify and BigCommerce, and we're working on some others, even from that perspective, the changes are coming pretty much every 6 months. And the connector that you see in Acumatica 2021 R2 is very different from 2022 R2. And that's just a span of 1 year. and we've seen some. I mean, it's all of that is improvements. But going back to your question, the e-com solution. If I have an e-com solution that works, the question is, are there any compelling reasons to move on? So I would say the first thing is integration. If you can integrate that solution into your backend system reliably and have it working with real-time sync or close to that, and it's doing what you need it to do, you might be fine for a little while. But again, it's changing, and you should be thinking about what will happen next year when my sales go through the roof, and I hope they do. If they do, then how is your system going to support that? If you have, let's say you have sales orders coming in every 30 minutes, well, that's fine if you have 2 of them or 20 of them. But what if you are getting an order, 5 orders a minute? If you are stacking them up and trying to bring them in every 30 minutes, you're having a huge data inflows every 30 minutes. You should be having a system that allows for real-time sync. So consider that. Consider what your life is going to be in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years, and also what support do you currently have for your custom solution or for your existing solution? Are you going to have the support that you currently have in 2 years? So we talked about Magento. Magento, there is no built-in connector for Magento from Acumatica. And we know that as long as Acumatica is on the market, there will be BigCommerce and Shopify connector available from the same company. So that's a big advantage of moving into something like BigCommerce or Shopify, because the software vendor, which is Acumatica, they are providing that connector. And you have certainty that that will be there and that it will be growing, it will be improving. And you are pretty much future-proofing your e-commerce business with moving to something more modern. In addition to that, well, we all know that the world is moving to the cloud. We're closer to the cloud as any before. So you want to have a solution that allows for quick updates, for touchless updates, and most of you know that if you have something like hosted Magento site, the support is and maintenance is super expensive, super costly, and it requires a lot of even your technical knowledge. Now, if you are moving to something like Shopify or BigCommerce, those platforms are managed by their respective providers, and they do all of the updates, they do all of the safety fixes and all of that. So you don't have to touch those systems yourself. The maintenance is done for you. In addition to that, when they roll out new features, you get those features right there and then. You don't need to do anything on your own. And oftentimes, what I've heard from our existing customers and other people I talked with, they say, we have this solution and it works. Like even maybe for the data flows, it works. But whenever I need to make any change to my website, I need to hire a developer. I can't do anything with my current solution. And even if you grow that expertise within the company, now I'm talking to the owners of the business. If you teach someone to use that solution within your company and they leave, they leave the state, they leave the company, you lose that expertise and now you have to start over. It's much better to have a solution that allows low code, no code changes to be done on the admin UI side of things, and have your flows changed, have your products changed, your blog section created or developed. So I would say that there are a lot of reasons to move into something newer or more modern than your older solution.
Yeah, and so in that answer, you started talking about updates, and I think that's something that we should move on to because Jackie asked a question about sorry, one second. How do we manage the update cycles between Acumatica and BigCommerce to ensure we're taking advantage of the improved features or bug fixes with minimum disruptions? Is this something PC Bennett helps clients do, like something along the lines of figuring out the best update cycle and versions of both the ERP and e-commerce solution?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jackie. And I probably know some of the history to that question. You know that we do one minor, one major update a year for our clients. That's what we're trying to do, and I think it's helping you to be up to date most of the time. Now, there could be some issues with the existing connector to BigCommerce or Shopify, and in order to fix those, most of the time we have an option to go to a minor build upgrade. And yeah, let me just explain what it is. So we have Acumatica versions. We have, let's say, 2022, and then we have two major versions, R1, that's the first half of the year, and R2, the second half of the year. And within those versions, we have multiple builds, and we call them minor builds. So you would have 22 R1, update 103, and then update 104, 111, and so on and so forth. The upgrade between minor builds has become really easy. It used to be that you had to retest everything, make sure that everything works. So each upgrade was a painful process because you had to do the full-fledged UAT testing. Acumatica has improved a lot. In addition to that, they roll out this update pamphlets where they describe what exactly has changed. So if you have an issue that can be fixed with a minor upgrade, the best way is to do that upgrade as soon as possible. And there is a process, and we actually at PC Bennett, we have a whole team that is responsible for upgrades these days. And they are improving their process, and it's becoming even more streamlined than it was before.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so again, to anyone who's in the audience, please feel free. Yuri is a great expert, so let's like test his knowledge on today's call. So if you have any questions, please feel free to either submit them into the chat or Q&A feature. But I think for now, Yuri, what I would like to ask you while we wait for additional questions to roll in is what are some of the potential roadblocks or pitfalls that a digital agency might face when creating an e-commerce solution?
And by that, you mean an agency that is not ERP agency, that doesn't have an ERP experience. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that the data, the structuring of the data is the biggest pitfall. Metrics inventory, some payment methods that we see. The digital agency, the traditional digital agency, their main focus is marketing, which makes sense. I mean, you need to make your site look good and sell your products. But in our today's connected world, where when you have your backend system and you have your front end e-commerce system, you need to make sure that they can talk to each other reliably. And the way to do that is to think through all of these data point connections. The very important for a digital agency to understand what they can pass through to e-commerce, to ERP system, what they can get back from the ERP system. And when they don't know that stuff, they can design even the UI. They can design the UI in a less than efficient way. So you can do the project with them, and at the end of the project, you will require a lot of rework. I will give you an example. So, for instance, you have a you have a customization on your product. So you're selling a product that can be customized. You can add the embroidery on that product. It's for most e-commerce systems, including BigCommerce and Shopify, there are apps on the store, on the marketplace, that you can install on your storefront and have that functionality working on the UI. So it seems like the issue is covered, and digital agency thinks that they have done their job, and that you can accept orders with the embroidery, even with the image attached to your order, with what exactly should be embroidered on your, I don't know, towel or something. Now, if that is done by the digital agency, and then after that, the client comes to us and say, okay, here we have an app, it does this. So now just take that image and import it into Acumatica, because we want to look at it when we are doing the actual embroidery. That app doesn't have an API. It's not, we cannot integrate to that app from Acumatica. So before doing that, going that easy route from the very beginning, you should have thought of, okay, where do I need that data? Do I only need it in e-commerce, or do I also need it in my ERP? In which form? How is data going to flow between the two systems? So things like that. The biggest disadvantage of a digital agency that doesn't know ERP, and I would say specific ERP. So if you have Acumatica ERP, your digital agency should know Acumatica ERP. If your ERP is Sage, your digital agency should know Sage and how it works, what APIs does that system have. So that the disadvantage is not knowing those things in advance, and pretty much shooting yourself in the foot. Because if you come to us with that setup and say we need to integrate into Acumatica, we will have to recreate that functionality in your e-commerce and make it available for consumption in ERP.
That is fantastic. And I appreciate you going into such great detail there. And so I just want to bring it back to another question from the audience. We're going back to updates, Yuri. So you did a great job outlining how Acumatica goes through the 2 upgrades every year, but we're curious if PC Bennett is now tracking the update functions associated with e-commerce platforms. Specifically, are we tracking the features and fixes that come with BigCommerce in the same way that we do with the Acumatica releases that happen every year?
Okay, that's a great question. I think maybe the first question was about that and I missed that. But so the good thing about BigCommerce is that when they roll out their updates, there is nothing you have to do manually. It's a little different from what we do with Acumatica. In Acumatica, you go through the process of upgrading. You have your sandbox, probably you do the UAT, and then you upgrade, and it takes a couple hours when your site is down, your Acumatica ERP is down. That's when the upgrade is going on. With e-commerce systems like BigCommerce and Shopify, whenever they do the update, that update happens automatically. There are some instances where they do major updates, but those happen like once in 10 years. For instance, Shopify has rolled out Shopify 2.0 last year, and that was a big one. But again, you didn't have to change your existing solution. You could use new features now. Now, going back to Acumatica and the connector we have to BigCommerce or Shopify, the connector itself, I know from my experience that Acumatica is working with the BigCommerce team, and they're working with Shopify team, and they know about these updates well in advance, and they are trying to incorporate these new features into the current releases. So they are not waiting for it to become public. They are working with existing e-commerce providers and trying to be up to date most of the time. Now, granted, you will have some gap there. So let's say BigCommerce rolls out the multi-warehouse feature this year. I hope they do. And when they do, I don't know how fast we'll have that feature in the connector, But I do track those when the new builds are released from Acumatica for build upgrades or new build releases. I track what they say about e-commerce, and we at PC Bennett, we have strong relationships with Acumatica, so we talk with them regularly to know where they stand, what they are doing, what is coming, what is on the roadmap, to understand what we can offer, what we can talk about with you, and how soon we will get this or that feature implemented.
That's great. Thank you. And so again, if there's any questions from the audience, just please shoot them through the Q&A feature or the chat box. But Yuri, while we wait to see if there is another question that may roll in, I'd like to ask just kind of what you are excited about in terms of spearheading this new digital agency that PC Bennett is launching. You've kind of gone into the nitty gritty of what we're going to be doing with it, but kind of in terms of future state, like what are you really excited about and how we can support clients in this way?
Yeah, for me personally, I'm super excited about this this new initiative that we're taking. We've done already a few projects. I have had a lot of experience in e-commerce before, and I feel like the people, the companies that we're working with, they have a great potential in improving their e-commerce and improving their business overall. So for me, it's an opportunity to help our existing and potential customers to grow their businesses. And e-commerce, we have seen more and more people asking about e-com. Only a handful of our clients don't have that, but because I know the B2B sphere pretty good, I think that we are moving into this stage of explosion in B2B e-commerce systems. For the most part, the existing solutions on the market are B2C geared solutions. But now we have BigCommerce, and they're improving their solution a lot. As I said, they have some B2B functionality out of the box, and they are adding new stuff all the time. And that's another. They are a partner of ours too. So we talk to them about what would be good to have, what they can improve in their current solution, and they are listening. So I'm really thrilled about that, because even though this market is huge, it's huge, we have the players that are willing to listen to individuals, to companies, to implement some new solutions that are necessary for specific businesses. Surely they do their research and product and market research and ask other clients what they might need. But I really like that Acumatica, BigCommerce, they are responding to the client requests. And I don't know what to expect in the future, but I think it's going to grow, and it's going to be better, and it's going to be easier to maintain for any business. And that's my hope, that one day we can have everything set up and have most or all of the functionality being covered by out-of-the-box features. That's something that I'm passionate about.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't look like there are any additional questions as of right now. So I just really wanted to say thank you to everyone who joined today's webinar. It was very beneficial, and I appreciate everyone being on here to learn a little bit more about e-commerce and learning from Yuri about where he thinks e-commerce is going and how we're setting up this digital agency. So if you have any more questions about e-commerce specifically, you can reach out to Yuri. His email is right here. It's it is yurik@pcbennett.com. And then, I am just starting up with these customer-facing webinars. So if you have any feedback for Ben on the format of the webinar, or if there's any potential improvements that you could see in the future, please feel free, email Ben directly, and he can relay those to me. So again, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for joining the call today. It has been fantastic, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all, guys.